So it's wonderful to have with us one of the leading social entrepreneurs, Patrick Strüby, who has been given awards across the board for his work in small-scale farming and fair trade. And he is here with us also to present his personal story, how he became a social entrepreneur, an innovator, and somebody I think you can learn from for understanding what the companies that you're working with can do, should be doing, and can do to innovate, so that Larry Fink, that the SDGs, that all the problems that we have and face in the world are going to be addressed in a meaningful way. So thank you very much, Patrick, for being on with us, and I'll just hand it over to you.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here and to tell you and everybody listening here to my story, how I became a social entrepreneur. So some 15 years ago, or even more, I started my business career. And at that time, my first job was working with Deloitte, a consulting company. And I thought that was an amazing job. So I'm originally from Switzerland, so this was back in Switzerland, and I was born into a Catholic family with strong values, and my dad always told me, you need to be good at school, you need to have a good job, you need to have a good salary, then a house and a family. And so I was born into these conditions, and I thought, okay, that's what life is about. And so I did all that, and then started to work with Deloitte, one of the big consulting companies and audit firms. And I really liked that job. I liked consulting. I liked to go into companies and see what they do and see the challenges and come up with creative solutions. And as it happens a lot with consulting companies, that people that work there, they get offered a job from the big clients. And so it happened to me. I got an offer from the largest commodity trading company that we had at that time, and they offered me a job for mergers and acquisitions. So, and this was a company that had global investments in mines, refineries, smelters. So I took that job, and then when I started, I was like traveling around the world. I was living in airplanes. I was living in hotels. I was doing these multi-million-dollar projects, and I loved it. I loved it. It was amazing. I was like one week in the Philippines, coming back to Switzerland and flying to Peru, and so this is really awesome. And to that point, I never really challenged what I was doing. I was flying to these countries, landing in an airport, going to the meeting rooms, looking at those numbers, do what I had to do, go to the hotel and fly out again. And so, okay, this is what life is about. But then what happened? And at one point in time, I was on the board of two mines in Peru, and I was flying to Peru, and instead of then going to the mine, the country manager said, let's go. I want to show you the mine. And so we were going up there, instead of going to the meeting room, we were going up into the mine. So we were driving from Lima up into the Andes, high up, and it was like on 15,000 feet. So the air got thin, and then they asked me to go into the mine. They wanted to show me where they have the highest ore content. So I was putting on that overall with that lamp, and then, they have these tracks. So I was going onto these tracks, going into the mine and down into the belly of the Andes. And then when I was in the middle of the Andes, it was like horror what I saw there. I saw under what conditions these miners were living. And it was hot, it was humid, not a good place to be when you're claustrophobic. And I just wanted to get out of the mine. So when I got out of the mine, at the same time, then the company was doing a reorganization. And during that reorganization, many of the miners then lost their job. And this was the very first time I was confronted with a very different reality of what I've been seeing before. And that was such an incredible awakening for me that I realized that I need to change my life. I remember I was in Lima. It was 3:00 in the morning. I woke up from this nightmare, and I realized I'm making the rich richer and the poor poorer. And for the very first time, I really started to challenge, what am I doing? What am I doing with everything I've been given? And that was such a big awakening that I then went back to Switzerland. I quit my job. And said, I need to reconsider what to do with life. I just don't want to continue in that system. And the problem at that time was my dad, because he could not understand. He could not understand, how can you leave a job that pays such a good salary? You have everything you want, everything I told you. And it was, he just would not understand. And this is why then I decided I needed to go away to reconsider what to do with my life. And I couldn't be in Switzerland because my dad would have driven me nuts. So at that time, then I was looking at the map and said, okay, I want to go to a place I've never been to reconsider what to do with my life. So I looked at the map, and because I was in Peru and I like Latin America, I picked Mexico. So Mexico was the country I've never been to. And so I bought this one-way ticket, and then I landed in Mexico, not knowing where to sleep, with this one bag in my hand. And then I was just traveling around the country. And when I liked it, I stayed, and if not, I continued. And then 3 months into this sabbatical, I realized I really like international trading, but it needs to be fair trading, because I've seen a lot of trades that were not particularly fair. And this was back in 2005. And this was when the fair trade movement started very slowly. At that time, there were like 5 fair trade products. There was like fair trade coffee, there was fair trade bananas, there was fair trade tea, there was fair trade sugar. And so I got really intrigued by that model, and I started to study about that and see what they exactly do. And so I saw that it's a model that helps farmers that live in poor conditions, that they can get access to new markets. And because I was in Mexico, I said, okay, why don't I go and visit and see what farmers do? I don't have a farming background whatsoever, but I was just intrigued by the model. So I did some research, and then I saw that Mexico is the largest avocado producer in the world. So I took from the place I was staying, I went to that area where they were growing the avocados, and I went there just to visit, just to look. And what I saw is that there are so many small-scale farmers. They have beautiful avocados, and they sell them to middlemen or to local markets at very low prices. They sell like the piece of fruit at 10, 15 cents, whereas when I walk into Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, I pay like $2. I said, what's wrong here? Why is that? And then I wanted to understand if this is an issue, a problem that is just like in Mexico, just with avocado farmers, or is it an issue bigger, that small-scale farmers generally have that challenge? And because I gave myself a year, I said, I want to find out. So what I did then, from Mexico, I traveled down to the tip of Latin America, down to Chile. And then from Chile, I was going to Argentina, to Peru, to Ecuador, to Colombia. And I was just going and I was visiting small-scale farmer cooperatives just to see, what do they produce? Where do they sell? At what price do they sell? In what conditions do they live? And by the time I got back to Mexico, I realized it's not just a local issue, a local problem, it's actually a global problem. Small-scale farmers live in poverty because they don't have access to better paying markets. And I also realized if nothing happens, these farmers will remain in poverty forever and ever and ever and ever. And so I thought, okay, maybe I can do something about that. And because I was studying about the fair trade, I then started to see if I could certify avocados as fair trade. And when my year came to a close, I was the first one globally that had organic and fair trade avocados. But up to that point, I wasn't really serious about, starting a fair trade business in a sector that I didn't really know, because my plan was going back to Switzerland. But to cut a long story short, I started to build a company. It's called Fairtrasa, what stands for Fair Trade South America, because I wanted to replicate that model all across South America. And I started that company and ended up living 8 years in Mexico to grow that organization. And from the very beginning, it was key for me to start an organization that can be scaled and replicated to many, many countries where there are poor small-scale farmers in these conditions. And what I want to show you now, it's just like walk you through quick a few slides to illustrate what that looks like. So here you see on that slide, you see what that looks like. So here on the left-hand side, you have like banana farmers. This is in Peru. They sell to what is called camioneros at these bananas at very low price. So they just go there and they just load the trucks and they pay in cash a very low price. On the right side here, what you have are grapefruits. This is in Mexico. They fall off the tree right on the ground because there wasn't any market. At that time when I was there, the market price for the grapefruit was below the cost for harvesting. So that's why farmers would just not even pick them. So this just demonstrates the challenges that small-scale farmers have. If there is no market, and if their livelihood depends on that, that's a very, very difficult condition. And that is just like two examples that are representative for millions of farmers. So what I wanted to address with Fairtrasa is really poverty and agriculture. And on this slide, what you see is what is like the global situation as of today. This is, there are 736 million people that live on less than $1.90. 80% live in rural areas. Progress in reducing hunger has stalled, has even gone up since 2014. And climate change is putting a lot of challenges for agriculture in general. So and here you see what I already mentioned, the challenges that small-scale farmers are facing. So they sell food at low prices to middlemen. They lack know-how and infrastructure, low yields and high production costs, no access to financing. And the consequence is they're trapped in a vicious cycle. So what did I do? And this is not rocket science. I was also thinking about why has nobody done that before? Because what I started to do is I provided technical support, because many of these farmers, they just continued doing what their parents have been doing without having best practice and best fertilizers. With this, we could increase yields and quality. We focused on organic and fair trade certification. And this gave access to international markets. And with this, we could increase their income. And here are some pictures that illustrate what it looks like with mango farmers here. Then we have like post-harvest experts who came to train the mango farmers. Here is our own training center that we have in Mexico. And here you see the avocado. So this was we were the first globally with the first Fairtrade avocado. And here you see the Fairtrade labels. This is the one in the US, and this is the one in Europe. And then the same year, we also started the first Fairtrade wine in Argentina that we then started to sell to Sam's Club. And so what does that mean now for the farmer in terms of financial impact? So you remember the very first picture I showed you was that the banana farmers, and so this is Juan Perez. He's one of these banana farmers, and he sells to the local markets and these camioneros, and he gets paid for a box of bananas an average of 90 cents. That's the average. If you now compare it with Luis Pereira, who sells to Fairtrasa as organic and fair trade, he gets paid a year-round amount of $6.50 per box plus a fair trade premium. Now, if you compare the two, that's a very significant difference. And And that can be a life changer for many of these farmers. What is important to note here is the way we work with these farmers is really as business partners. It's not that we're giving them anything for free. I go to these farmers and say, this is the opportunity I'm giving you. And you can join our network, but you have to comply with international standards, because I cannot go to Whole Foods and say, buy my bananas if they're like black inside. So the quality needs to be on the standard for international exports. And there are a lot of certifications that are required. So that's why we train the farmers so that they can meet international standards. And then in the following years, we impacted 40,000 lives. We focused on triple bottom line for economic improvement, increase of yields. We did community development projects, focused on organic and fair trade. Here's just the pictures from our community development projects at volleyball, where we supported a school with volleyball court. Then here we supported a school in Mexico to build a center for handicapped kids. We had we started a project for carbon credits to produce fertilizers, compost that we then give the farmers to increase the yields of their orchards. And then here in Peru, there are a lot of farmers who don't have enough funds to plant their land. So we started to collaborate with farmers to use their land in a productive way. Here you have some pictures that illustrate what our products look like the mangoes, avocados, grapefruits, ginger. Banana has become our biggest item, organic fair trade bananas, limes. And then later when we scaled we then scaled Fairtrasa across Latin America. And after 2009, the financial crisis, it became really difficult because we were basically living from the margin we made between what we were paying to the farmers and what we sold it to the importer. We were selling this in the first place mainly to Europe. And after the financial crisis, many of our customers then would no longer buy fair trade because they just couldn't pay the 20 cents more that they would have to pay. So at that time, what we then did is I had to take a new look, a fresh look at how do I continue growing and how do I rescue my company to survive, because our margin wasn't big enough. So what I then did, I established my own import company in Rotterdam that we basically would become vertically integrated, so that we would export, but also import. Because what I saw is the importer at that time, was taking a big margin without taking any risks. And what we did on the ground, or we do on the ground in Latin America, is cut out all the middlemen. So we became the importer, and what you see here is our import office in Holland. And so today, Fairtrasa is a leading social enterprise in sustainable agriculture, one of the largest organic and fair trade food exporters. We're vertically integrated, and we're a leading brand now in the organic food market in Europe. And so we got a lot of awards from a lot of big organizations, and mainly because we converted what traditionally was an NGO activities into a social for-profit organization. Now, what happened the last few years? So when I started, my idea was to replicate that model to as many countries as possible. We started about 20 companies replicating that. But then when the digital disruption happened, new business model came. And I was taking a fresh look and saw that brick and mortar organizations is no longer the way that the new business models look like. Also, what happened is, in 2016, when the Sustainable Development Goal came into force, and I saw the need that we really need to scale much faster than just going like linear scaling by setting up individual offices one by one. And so the question I asked myself really was, how can we exponentially scale our business model and farmer impact? What are new models that we could use? And at that time, I got inspired by these two companies, Uber and Airbnb. And I was looking, what are they doing? And I saw that they're really tapping into existing infrastructure. Uber does not need to own one car, but they use all the cars that have spare capacity. Same with Airbnb. Airbnb does not need to own an apartment or a house. They just use existing real estate, and both companies became billion-dollar companies. So what I saw is, what is really important is the using existing infrastructure. It's about enabling and not about owning. And so the response to that, when I saw that, is that we can actually scale the Fairtrasa model by using technology, a platform. And so we started so last year in 2018, we launched Bloom. And Bloom is a technology platform that actually does exactly the same as Fairtrasa is doing, but using technology. And the way that works is, imagine that you have your phone, and on your phone, you have like two key functions. One is like the pre-harvest, where you are a farmer. Imagine you are the farmer. And then the app shows you exactly what the planning looks like, what the fertilization looks like, what there is a score that looks at all the risks. It's like a very complex algorithm. What seed, what how to protect. So you basically get best practice knowledge in your hand. And then once your crop is ready to sell, you can use the same tool to basically sell your products through the app. And what it looks like is that on your phone, you cover the entire supply chain. So getting precision farming, best practice, best fit solutions, and then selling through the app to consumers in the local market and international market. And as I mentioned, we launched that company last year at the United Nations Sustainable Development Impact Summit. And here is just like a picture how we did that in how we launched it. So we really want farmers to bloom, and this is like in India, where farmers started to use the platform, and here another in Nepal. And the goal we have now is, the target is, we want to lift 1 million farmers out of poverty through using this innovative technology platform. And it's really about systemic change. We have many more tools in our hands that we didn't have 10 years ago. When I started the company, I followed the model that how all companies have grown through subsidiaries. Today, we have new possibilities. And it's really about systemic change. And to end here, it's you may know the saying, don't give a poor man a fish to eat, teach him how to fish. And what systemic change is about is not only that to teach a fisherman how to fish, it's really to revolutionize the entire fishing industry. So, and this is what I want to do with Bloom, and what I see really important in today's world to address the world's most pressing social and environmental challenges.